Hey, I just thought I'd make a quick video about the Back to the Beginning event and concert, which we all witnessed. For those of you who need to know, we actually all attended the show. And when I say we, I'm referring to my band Trivex. Myself, Sully, our bass player, Matt, our drummer, we were all there. And yeah, it was a very special night. Before I get into the concert, just wanted to say thank you all so fucking much for coming to the show on Friday. We kind of did an extreme metal warm-up night, which ironically was booked before we knew that the Sabbath show was happening. And just before we wanted to announce it, we found out about the Sabbath gig. And then we were like, okay, well, this makes perfect sense for us, because Birmingham is always a special homecoming kind of a show for us anyway. Even though none of us live there anymore, it is our previous home. It's where our drummer grew up. It's where I first moved to when I came to the UK. So there's a lot of history there for us, a lot of old friends and old faces and people that we know, but also, of course, the very special fucking nature of the city itself because of the history with heavy metal. There was, of course, Black Sabbath, but also Judas Priest, and then later on, Napalm Death and Bolt Thrower and the like. Although, I think Bolt Thrower maybe were from Coventry, but that's like pretty much right next to it on the map if you look. Nevertheless, always a special treat to be back in Birmingham. Thank you so fucking much. I think we almost sold out the show, and you guys absolutely rinsed our merch. Thank you for that. Why? Because we've got some very, very big projects coming up at the end of the year, and unfortunately I can't reveal too much just yet, but this sort of thing really helps. So at this moment in time, we need all the support and the help that we can get with Trivex. So, of course, it's much appreciated and very humbling to receive your support on nights like this, and the energy was fucking ferocious. If you weren't there, you missed out. That's all I can say. And it was great to finally showcase to you guys our side project Weird Stuff as well. Very cool things coming up with that too. Anyway, I want to talk about the Sabbath show very quickly. This is not going to be a long video. I just want to talk a little bit about the experience itself, So there's the logistical element of an event, but to me, I'm a more philosophical, retrospective kind of person. That's just how my mind works. So I don't get overly caught up in things like ticket prices or other things. Like, there are very relevant things to be thinking about, of course, but it's just not something that crosses my mind as much when it comes to my personal devotion to the arts, if you will. So the concert itself, I think we got there quite early, and I think we were at the Villa Grounds pretty much for most of the 12 hours, so it was like pretty much a full day kind of an experience. Yeah, fantastic vibe, great vibe. All of the bands that performed mostly were pretty interesting. There was a couple of bands I'd never seen before, like Rival Sons, never heard them before. We were luckily actually quite close to the stage, I say close, well, we had a very good view basically, and we were basically there for the whole show, and the sound was not bad considering the fact that they had extremely short changeovers between bands that have obviously most of them at least must have fairly complex riders, considering they've been touring for like 20-30 years, and yeah, I think everyone did pretty good, to be honest with you. I have obviously like some criticisms to give as well, but none of that is either at the Sabbath crew or even the organizers. I'll get into that part. And that's a very small, minuscule part of the event. For me, as a whole, it was fucking crazy. So, obviously, I want to talk a little bit about the fact of how special it was to actually be there. So, if you think about it, Aston Villa, like Aston itself, that's obviously an area in Birmingham, and actually my bus used to go through there. And I used to go through this area where on one side you've got the I think this place that later turned into some swimming baths. That's where Sabbath used to rehearse back in the day when they still used to be called Earth. And then on the other side of that, you have the pub that they all used to go and drink in afterwards. And so that you get like little bits of history there that if you walk around the Birmingham city, or even like Aston as an area, it's not like Aston as an area is not like a great place, with all due respect. Like there are much nicer areas in Birmingham, but there was something really fucking special about just the fact that we're all gathering there in this stadium with like 40,000 odd people. And of course, you got people, millions watching worldwide as well. But just being in that stadium, there was a real electric atmosphere in the air, and knowing that Ozzy, this guy who came basically from nothing, working class family, and had nothing to his name, and then to become a multi-millionaire person, like forget the money side of it, forget the net worth, but to actually like change the lives of so many people with this music, and that's kind of the part that was kind of like really lingering at the back of my head all day yesterday, and still does, is the fact that if it wasn't for Black Sabbath and what they did, none of us would be the people that we are. Like we would all be very different people. Some of the bands actually said this on stage, which I was just kind of like, it was reaffirming to me that even all these bands, like Phil Anselmo, I think actually said this on stage, and it was very reaffirming to me to see and hear that someone who's been doing this for as long as they have, at the level that they have, is thinking the same way. That was cool, because it is true, like without them, we probably wouldn't have heavy metal. So without heavy metal, we wouldn't have access to this open sourcing of sheer ferocious power that humans can achieve. I think it's very close to a religious experience, if not directly alike a religious experience, if there is one. And that's the way I look at it, because for me, that was kind of my background, having obviously being in Iran and having a very religious totalitarian thing, that was kind of hammered down on us. And then actually being a practicing Muslim as a teenager, and then upon discovering heavy metal, realizing that, oh no, hang on, I don't have to submit to anything to feel a sense of belonging. I don't have to submit to a club, to an ideology, in order to feel like I have some kind of power, I have some kind of leverage in life, because music can already give me that. Metal can give me that. I'm grateful to Black Sabbath for that opportunity. And of course, they were in the first band I discovered, but any band that you discover that's metal is there because of Black Sabbath. They're kind of like you can look at them as the queen of the beehive when it comes to metal. And of course, that's not to take away from the legendary nature of any of the other bands, like Priest or Maiden, Metallica, none of that. Or Motorhead. Those bands absolutely deserve their own respect, but Sabbath were the OG of the lot. Okay, it's just it's not to say that they're better or worse or whatever. It's just a simple fact. Everyone knows this. I don't have to prove it. Yeah, it was very special being there, and I mentioned the thing about Iran. What fucking blew my mind was the fact that like if Black Sabbath weren't around, I probably would have never ended up leaving Iran. I would have never ended up meeting the probably at this point thousands of people that I've met. We would have never ended up going on tours. We would have never ended up playing festivals. We would have never ended up doing all of the cool, crazy shit that we did. Or we would have never ended up, playing those basements in Iran and then getting in shit with authorities and then having like actual threats to our life, which I still look back at to this day in a very fond way, because I think it helped, those kind of things help develop your character as a young man. So all of those kind of fucking things that are great would have never happened without them. So I'll forever be in debt to those guys for creating the thing that they did, whether it was intentional or not. But yeah, let's talk about the concert itself. So yeah, great vibe, great energy. Most of the bands were pretty good, even though, you know, like there's a lot of bands that I don't actively listen to, like, you know, Mastodon. I've never really like got into them. They played really well. I saw them again with Slayer a few days before, and they're actually really good band live. I'm kind of quite keen to listen to more of them, you know. Unfortunately, like when you kind of, especially getting to extreme metal and black metal, you know, you kind of start to ignore all the other stuff that's out there just kind of because it's popular, you know. Like, I hate to say it, but it's true. You know, a lot of us kind of think like that, you know, and sometimes maybe to a detriment. So I'm kind of trying to be a little bit more open-minded and listen to more bands that I know of, but I just don't listen to, if that makes sense. They're kind of one of those bands. Lamb of God were fun to watch. He threw his shoes in the crowd at the end, which I thought was really funny. Okay, I'll get the negative shit out of the way straight away. Guns N' Roses, tremendous backing band and flawless musicians. With just the drums, obviously bass, you got Duff McKagan, you know, and just how much style that guy has, you know, like he's just fucking oozes with coolness on stage. Slash, fantastic performer. Like, he's a legend. You don't need my approval. I'm just saying, like, fucking amazing fucking musician and performer. Just like, you know, so good to watch live. Axel, I was overwhelmingly unimpressed with, particularly during the cover of Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath. I don't know how someone who gets that far in music can be so offbeat on such a simple piece of music. I don't know how you can fuck that up so badly. Honestly, it shocked me. Like, I was visibly cringing, and you know, and I wasn't the only person. There's a lot of people around us that were just like looking around confused, like, what the fuck's happening? I can literally see from back of people's heads, like, their ears turning red, just from the sheer awkwardness of butchering, you know, one of Sabbath's best songs. But it's like, how can you even fuck that up? You know, it's just like, it sounded like drunk karaoke Mickey Mouse. And, you know, I'm sorry. I don't want to, like, dismiss him as a human being, but as a musician and performer of that level, of a band that big, with so much history, Guns N' Roses, they're fucking legendary, man. And how can you fuck that up so badly? It was horrible. You could literally go grab a guy out of a local band playing a pub to 5 people and they would do a better job. And I'm really sorry to say that, but it's true. If you haven't seen it, go watch it for yourself. Watch the slow riff, go watch how he fucks up that riff. Bizarre how bad it was. It was almost as if like he did it on purpose just to piss me off, but I'm sure that wasn't the case. Anyway, that's the negative shit done. That was it. That's the only negative feedback I have about the whole evening. I know a lot of other people had more stuff to say. No, that's it. Moving on. Slayer were really cool. They actually had a little bit more fire than when I saw them in Cardiff the other day. Metallica were great, but Metallica are never not great. They are always the number one band for me. Okay, so they fucking killed it. They performed really well. But the thing is, even if they weren't, my number one band, I would still say that they killed it. Okay, so this is not just entirely biased. They were very, very, very good. And yeah, so that brings us, of course, to kind of the main event of the whole thing. So the main event, we had Ozzy performing first, and then Sabbath coming on afterwards with Ozzy. And then, of course, the Sabbath lineup this time was actually with Bill Ward, which is something that didn't happen before. So I actually saw Sabbath the first time back in May 2012 at the O2 Academy in Birmingham, which was their warm-up show for Download Festival that year. And that was a small place to see Black Sabbath. And I remember the moment when Ozzy came on stage and they just opened the set, and then he was just holding onto the mic stand, fucking staring, and I was just like, and he was like staring at me because I was like at the front row and I can see him like staring down at me. And I remember, I mean, this was 13 years ago, but that fucking unlocked such a fire in me that I think people need to realize when you see Trivex live now, there's like a little essence of Ozzy Osbourne there that exists there because of him. The level of ferocity, you know, like he might not, you know, throughout his years, he might not go around on stage and move the same way or like have the same level of kind of a, well, I want to say Trivex does have a little bit of a violent edge to its live shows. You know, which perhaps kind of sets us apart a little bit from a lot of the black metal bands out there. That the kind of intensity and energy that I think you get at Trivex shows, which I think people who've seen us will be able to obviously attest to that. I think, you know, Ozzy's actually got a big part to play in that. Why at least I am the way that I am. I just, you know, it's hard to put it into words, but he like unlocked something in my heart that at that moment it was like, all right, this is what we can do with music. Let's fucking go. Fast forward now 13 years later, watching them perform his last show. I kept saying to my guys, I was like, I don't know if he's even going to make it, but I appreciate that he tried. You know, it must be a lot of pressure being a man who's battling with all kinds of health and problems and all kinds of things, and then not being able to, you know, do your thing, you know, the amount of tours and shit that he's canceled. And I know the last 5-6 years has been a real uphill battle for him, you know, and he's not young either, you know, like, let's face it, guy's, what, 76? You know, it's this lifestyle takes its toll on you, you know. I'm someone who's very healthy, very fit, lives a clean lifestyle. I don't drink, I don't smoke, I eat well, I train. And even with all of that, if I do a show, I can feel it, man. So for him to have been doing this for as many years as he has, and then also on top of it have the extracurricular stuff, if you will, you know, that will take its toll, you know. So I have so much fucking respect for him for holding on this long. And this is the thing, when his intro music hit and then he came up through this ramp, which I already expected he would be there because they'd had markings on the ramp, and you could see from some of the video projections on the sides that there was markings, you know. And I turned around to my drummer and I said, that looks like a wheelchair or like a throne of some sort, which he, lo and behold, later when his set actually happened, he did come up on a throne. And then they pulled him back, which was absolutely on brand, you know, done very well. And, but what I didn't expect was that literally 10 seconds into his performance, I was just weeping completely. And it wasn't just me. I'm looking around me and there's a lot of people exactly in the same boat, just crying. And it wasn't so much that, oh, it's the songs that were doing it, although we kind of got to that with Mama, I'm Coming Home, or even the moment he announced Crowley, like, that fucked me up, man. And then the keyboard came in, I was just like, fuck. And it was beautiful, really beautiful and magical. But yeah, I just wept, and it wasn't because it was sad. It wasn't because it was, you know, I don't know. It wasn't like from a bad perspective, but why it made me personally cry was seeing someone fighting for dear life and holding on to every single ounce of power that they have to do something that they fucking love to do and have done it for 50 years. That's why I cried. And at that moment, I think it was a really special thing, because it was like every one of us who were watching, we were all like with him there, you know. I was purposely shouting louder. I was purposely interacting more. And I'll be honest, even though as a frontman, I demand a lot of the crowd, as an audience member, I'm kind of just an observer, if you will. Last night, when Ozzy was on stage, that wasn't the case, because I believe in that energy transaction, and that seemed to like perk him up a bit, actually. You know, like after 2-3 songs, he actually seemed more energized. Which, by the way, I totally understand how that works. It's not, you can say it's the adrenaline, but I think it's like there's a wave of energy to it. There's something very real about that positive energy that, you know, if you project that into the world and it gets projected back at you, it's a truly magical thing, you know, and it's where the best of humanity lies, in my opinion. And I was witnessing it firsthand and actually interacting with it just from an audience perspective last night, which was very cool, very cool. And he made it through, you know, when he did Mama, I'm Coming Home. That was crazy. Crazy to think that a guy is singing that song and those lyrics in front of thousands of people, when those thousands of people, including that guy himself, know that that's the last time he's ever gonna do that. And it's almost like a farewell, like a I don't know, almost like yeah, I'm coming home, you know. And yeah, his set was great. And then when Black Sabbath themselves took the stage, you know, obviously I never saw Bill Ward perform, so that was really special. You have to understand, the guy's 77, and that's not easy. And it must have been very difficult for him and the rest of the band. Geezer was fucking on point, by the way. He somehow sounded better than he did before. You know, his chops were unbelievable. He really solidified himself as the OG. But yeah, Bill Ward, you know, I think as a human being, he comes across as a really spectacular person, you know, and he has, again, played a very big part in shaping this music. So I'm really glad that they gave him the opportunity, even though he's not in perfect shape for playing those songs anymore. I didn't care that the songs were perfect. I didn't care if there were parts that were out of time. I absolutely did not care that there were mistakes, or that some parts he came in too early or too late. This did not matter to me. This was a symbolic thing. This was a symbolic representation of heavy metal at its core, and we actually got to witness it in person, played by the 4 people that literally made the music. That we all fucking love and inspired our lives and inspired our personalities and identities and the spiritual revolution and everything else that comes with metal, which is so much more than just fucking music. And I just felt honored to be in their presence as they did their final showdown, if you will. So yeah, nothing but love and good things for Black Sabbath, Ozzy, and the camp. I suspect that there'll probably be some kind of online criticism about, oh, this part was out of tune, this part was badly performed, or, oh, the ticket prices were high. Listen, it's always going to be something like that. And usually it's people who feel like they missed out on something, or they are missing out on something, that come up with that kind of criticism. It's not to shut down criticism, but I'm just saying, like, we all just witnessed something really special. So let's just appreciate it for what it is. That's just my 2 cents on that. Anyway, this turned out to be a little bit longer than I expected, but hope you guys enjoyed the ramblings. Let me know if any of you actually ended up going to the show. or if you watched it, what did you think? Did you enjoy it like I did? Let me know what you think. But yeah, just to conclude, long live Ozzy, long live Tony, long live Geezer, long live Bill, and long live Black Sabbath, long live heavy metal. Let's go.